I finally played The Good Life, and I have mixed feelings about it. Don't get me wrong, I think janky games can be fun, and I've even talked about how much I like Swery's other titles in the past. It's just, this one was not that good for me. It can be a cozy game for sure, but I was more frustrated than entertained by the end. So The Good Life begins with the main character, Naomi Hayward, going to a small English town called Rainy Woods. The first thing she says when she gets there?
What a goddamn hellhole.
She's a journalist from New York who works for a company called Morning Bell. Rainy Woods claims to be the happiest town in the world, so her company thinks that it's hiding a big secret. If she can take some photos and uncover its mysteries, she'll be free of her £30 million debt. This is a Swery game, so things in the story get really weird and goofy. Like the residents of Rainy Woods transform into cats and dogs during a full moon for some reason. Naomi shortly gets the ability to do that too, but unlike the townspeople, she can transform at will. Oh, and she has to investigate a murder case, so yeah, the story really does go, all over the place. Now the gameplay is a mix of a bunch of different things, since it plays like a life sim with RPG elements and other mechanics. You can take photos, farm, run errands, decorate your garden, among other stuff. It's a game that encourages you to take your time though. The game has a day and night cycle, so time goes by while you're outside, and the NPCs of Rainy Woods go on their own routines every day. Naomi is given a house in the beginning of the game, so the main way to skip time and save your progress is by going to bed there. When you gain the ability to transform into a cat or a dog, you get more mechanics. Like the cat can run fast, jump high, and it can scale certain walls with a scratch mark. Hunting animals gets easier too, since you can lock into them and attack, instantly giving you materials. Or you can just kick them over and over again as a human. As a dog, you can sniff out people and key items, and you can fight bigger animals. It's not that exciting though. You just kinda run, smack them, wait for them to smack back, dodge, and repeat until they die. Oh, and you can dig up items and pee to mark your territory. I actually don't remember if peeing does anything beyond, asserting dominance, but it's a mechanic, and it's there. So continuing with the game's life sim stuff, at least for the human form, you have to keep an eye on Naomi's health, so you need to make sure that she eats right, showers every day, and gets enough sleep. If not, then she gets sick and stressed, which costs money to fix, and it can even cut your stamina bar short. Eating food gives you a bunch of different buffs, like bonus defense, increased stamina, and other stuff. I actually love the attention to detail when it comes to the Good Life's food and drinks. They all had little descriptions, and I think every dish had a unique model. It made the process of eating food pretty immersive, and even with the low poly graphics, seeing some of the dishes made me hungry. It was also fun to make Naomi sample different dishes and get wasted on a bunch of drinks.
Naomi, what are you doing?
It gets costly to always eat outside though, especially when you're just starting out. I ended up cooking in Naomi's house using the vegetables that I grew, and then I made her live off of baked potatoes for a quarter of my playtime. She isn't exactly a cook, so she can whip up really generic meals in her house, but if you keep eating the same dish in a pub or something, she'll learn the recipe. It's not ideal though, since it takes way too much time and money to get recipes. It doesn't help that the game doesn't really reward you with big amounts of cash for most things. Like completing side quests gives you some money, but the game lets you have passive income by taking photos and uploading them online, and it's all thanks to the social media platform on Naomi's desktop. Uploading photos in Flamingo gets you likes, which converts into money that you can deposit into Naomi's bank account. It can take a while to upload photos though, since the internet in Rainy Woods is just as ancient as her desktop. Don't expect to make bank by taking just any photo too. The Flamingo app has hot hashtags that update 2 times a week, so taking pictures that cater to those trends can give you the most likes. It can be tricky to find some of the viral topics of the week, but pointing the camera at certain objects and people shows you their tags. As for the cameras, I don't really know if the type of camera that you use affects your likes on Flamingo, but yeah, Naomi's default camera only takes photos in black and white. You'll need to buy new cameras and lenses in the town's shop to unlock more options. Despite the photography stuff being a core mechanic of the Good Life, the options are actually very limited. The game only has a handful of different lenses, which I think is weird for a photo-based game. I've even played games where taking photos was an optional thing, yet they had much more options with filters and other stuff. I rarely needed to change my lenses in the Good Life unless one of the quests had a requirement. The game doesn't exactly reward you with a ton of cash for most photos and quests too, so saving up for quality camera equipment can get quite expensive in the game. I ended up using the cheap camera that breaks down easily, so I had to run back to the shop every now and then to have it repaired. It wasn't really an issue unless I was super far away from Rainy Woods, which brings me to this game's massive map. I knew that The Good Life was going to be an open world game, but I wasn't expecting the map to be this big. It didn't help that the graphics for The Good Life aren't exactly great. I mean, the character models and Rainy Woods itself looks charming, but outside of that, the map is mostly empty with a bunch of flat, low-quality textures. Exploring the world made the game feel very much like a budget title. I didn't explore every part of the map, but I have gone to some of the farthest areas, and I never felt rewarded. The places were either filled with recycled assets or just plain boring. I remember the first time I got to a bunch of shops outside of the main village, and it was a bit uncanny. The buildings felt copy-pasted, while the same nameless NPCs wandered around with limited dialogue. It almost felt like I was playing through a game from 20 years ago, even though this was released in 2021. But hey, at least I got to try some food and drink tea. The huge map would have been more bearable if exploration was fun, but you literally have to go on foot everywhere, at least in the early parts of the game, and with limited stamina too. It didn't help that the world has a bunch of long walls that you can't even jump over in Naomi's human form, so you have to run around them until you find a small opening. After I got the ability to turn into a cat, I ended up just switching to it whenever I could, since it was much faster and I could actually jump over walls. It got tedious to transform back and forth though, since it doesn't happen instantly. This transition has to play every single time. Now there is fast travel in the game, but you gotta work for it. You unlock fast travel points by interacting with shrines that are scattered throughout the map, and you'll need to go to them anytime you want to travel to another shrine. They're a bit annoying to get to, but unlocking the nearest ones as early as you can makes the later parts of the game much easier to play through. But don't unlock them too early though, because some parts of the game are closed off until you progress through the main story. I only found that out when I actually got to the gate and I couldn't pay the toll fee to get through it. Apart from the fast travel points, there are no cars or anything. The main source of transportation is actually sheep, but just like the other mechanics, you can only unlock them down the line. This would have been fine if the game didn't make it kind of hidden. Like, you can probably play the game for hours without ever finding out about the sheep. Why? Well, there's this point in the game where the main story quests are split into 3 different routes. The narrator says that the order you do them doesn't really matter, so of course I believed him. What the game doesn't tell you is that you have to go for Route A to unlock sheep, which I think is very important to know because riding sheep makes it much more enjoyable to get around. I only found out about this hours into the game because I decided to do some of the quests in another route. The result, I wasted so much time going to different points of the map. So yeah, this is just a warning for anyone who's interested in playing this. I can't imagine what it would have been like if I left Route A last. Now the quests, well, the game has a lot of them. There's the main ones and the side stuff, as well as the time-sensitive quests that you gotta focus on. And the residents of Rainy Woods all have a preference for either dogs or cats. If you lean towards one side, they might give you exclusive quests and other dialogue options, so it's best to switch sides to unlock new conversations and even shop discounts. You can lean towards one side by talking to the NPCs during a full moon, or by offering money in shrines. I didn't do a lot of the side quests though, just because it was a bunch of fetch quests that were tedious and not very rewarding. I mean, I wouldn't mind going on fetch quests if the characters were interesting at least, but they were forgettable for me. Yeah, some of them are quirky, but I feel like there were just so many of them that they didn't feel as developed as the smaller casts in Swery's older games. At least the voice acting for the characters were pretty good. You only hear them talk during important cutscenes though, but it's there at least. Except Naomi. I was so tired of hearing her repetitive voice lines by the end of the game. And I thought she was a horrible protagonist for like 99% of the story. She was just so annoying and rude, even when the other characters were being nice to her. But the thing that annoyed me more than Naomi herself was all the grinding in the good life. Like almost all the items that you collect in the game can be used to make something else. The problem is, you need to use those materials to make other materials before they finally become useful. If you want clothes for Naomi or something cool for your garden, well, you can't just walk into the store and buy them. You gotta memorize what you need and hope that you find them, which means you gotta mine ore, dig around, hunt animals, and, well, pray to RNGesus. Overall, I thought that the good life was disappointing. It can be an immersive and comfy game to play, sure, but there were just so many things holding it back. It's grindy, and so many things were padded out. And don't get me started on the story. I kept waiting for the game's biggest mysteries to be solved, but I was left hanging even as the credits rolled. Things just happen in the Good Life story, so don't expect an explanation for everything. I was so uninterested in what was happening halfway through it that I zoned out while reading the dialogue. It took me like 18 hours to play through it, and I think I spent the majority of that on side content. I wouldn't be surprised if unlocking every shrine in the map added to my playtime too. So yeah, I don't think I can recommend The Good Life, unless you're a Swery fan, or you're still interested in the game despite all the issues. What I do recommend though is playing his other titles like D4 and Deadly Premonition. Oh, and especially The Missing. That one deserves so much more recognition. If you're interested in The Good Life, the game's out on the Switch, PS4, Xbox One, and on Steam. Let me know what you thought about the video, and thank you to my patrons at Patreon for supporting my channel. Now that I finished The Good Life, I'm definitely going to check out Deadly Premonition 2 in the future. I'm not sure what to expect though, since I heard a lot of mixed stuff about it. But I'm probably going to play through it anyway. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.